Market Wizards, interviews with top traders, brought to you by Marketplace Books. An interview with Richard Dennis, a legend retires. Richard Dennis became intrigued by commodity trading during the late 1960s while earning the minimum wage as a runner on the exchange floor. In the summer of 1970, he decided to take a crack at trading on his own, and with $1,600 borrowed from his family, he purchased a seat on the Mid-American Exchange. The Mid-Am, as it is called, is a kind of minor league exchange because it trades pint-sized versions of the contracts traded on the major exchanges. The Mid-Am tends to attract the business of small hedgers and speculators for whom a single, regular-sized contract represents too large a position. As a fledgling trader with little risk capital, the Mid-Am was well suited to Dennis. It was only... As a fledgling trader with little risk capital, the Mid-Am was well suited to Dennis. It was also the only exchange on which he could afford a seat. The seat cost Dennis $1,200, leaving him a scant $400 for trading. Incredible as it may seem, he eventually transformed that tiny stake into a fortune, which has been estimated by some to approach $200 million. As his father is reported to have said, in what must be one of the grand understatements of all time, let's just say Richie ran that $400 up pretty good. Although Dennis has been exceptionally successful over the long haul, he has withstood a few dramatic setbacks. He was in the midst of one such downturn at the time of our interview. Several of the public funds managed by Dennis lost enough during the late 1987, early 1988 period to trigger the 50% loss cutoff point for the cessation of trading. Dennis's personal account witnessed a similar fate. As he expressed in a letter to investors, these results parallel immense losses in my own personal trading. Perhaps one of Dennis's most impressive traits as a trader is his ability to weather such hard times with little emotional impact. Apparently, he has learned to accept such sporadic large losses as part of the game. His confidence during such periods remains unshaken, as he believes he will eventually rebound if he stays true to his basic trading strategy. Had I not known, judging by the mood and confidence of the man I interviewed, I would sooner have guessed that he had just made a small fortune rather than lost one. Whatever the stereotype image of a centimillionaire may be, Dennis does not fit it. His low-spending lifestyle is legendary. In fact, his only real extravagances are his sizable political and charitable contributions. His political views also do not mesh with the popular image of the very rich. Dennis is the founder of the Roosevelt Center for American Policy Studies, a liberal think tank, and he supports the concept of higher tax rates for wealthy Americans. In recent years, he has taken an increasingly active role in the political sphere, supporting a variety of liberal candidates. Unlike trading, his win-loss ratio in politics has been disappointing. In the 1988 presidential race, Dennis was the national co-chairman for the Babbitt campaign. In drawing up a list of candidates to be interviewed for this project, Dennis was an essential name. He's one of the foremost trading legends of our time, a trader that a number of others interviewed in this book cited with the phrase, "I'm not in his league." In setting up the interview, I dealt with one of Dennis's assistants. After explaining the project to him, he told me he would talk to Dennis and get back to me. About 1 week later, I received a call informing me that Dennis could see me on a date about 1 month forward for exactly 1 hour. I explained that I was coming to Chicago for the primary purpose of interviewing Dennis, and that 1 hour was hardly enough time to cover all the essential areas. The response essentially was that was all the time allotted. The implicit message, take it or leave it. I agreed, hoping that I would get some more time if the interview was going well. I arrived about 5 minutes before the appointed time and was ushered into a large but decidedly unpretentious office. Dennis arrived precisely on the hour, shook hands politely, and sat down at his desk. He apologized in advance if, in the course of the interview, he occasionally glanced at the quote screen, explaining that he could keep his mind on the interview at the same time and would signal me if he had to put in any orders. Having the experience of trading myself, albeit on an infinitesimally smaller scale, I explained that I understood. As the interview began, there was an element of unease on both our parts. In my case, I had a sense of a ticking clock, with not enough time to accomplish the task at hand. In the case of Dennis, I believe it was a matter of a genuinely shy personality, at least in terms of a first meeting. After 5 to 10 minutes, the tension was gone, the atmosphere became relaxed, and the conversation flowed smoothly. 45 minutes into the interview, I began to think that things were going so well that Dennis would continue our conversation beyond the allotted hour. At exactly 10 minutes before the end of the hour, my illusion was shattered. "I've only got about 10 more minutes," he said, "so if there's still stuff that's important, you may want to get to it." I shuffled through my index cards and quickly tried to identify some of the key questions I had not yet covered. Precisely at the end of the hour, Dennis said, "That's about all the time I have. Thank you." One segment of questions I did not get to dealt with the political side of Dennis's experiences. These topics included the Senate hearings on alleged manipulation of the soybean market by Dennis, the Roosevelt Institute, and the various political figures Dennis had known. Although these subjects were certainly areas of interest and color, they were not pertinent to the primary focus of this book. Consequently, I chose questions related to trading before attempting to turn to anything politically oriented. At the end of the interview, I played my final card by saying I didn't even get to any questions related to the political side. "They're not interested in that anyway," Dennis replied as he politely said goodbye and left the office.